What happens if two couples go to a secluded place for fun? There you see innocent-looking children, but they are not innocent at all. These children may look small, but they possess the power of a 30 or 40-year-old person. At the start of the movie, we are shown two couples, Steve and Jenny, who love each other deeply, are heading to a retreat for holidays, a location known as 1000. Steve is part of a couple. He will take Jenny to that place and propose to her there. Now they both frequently visit that town which has that article. As soon as they reach the town, they stay at a motel for the night. In the morning, they set off for Eden Lake, but on the way they encounter a signboard for Eden Lake. According to that sign, they would need to go through the forest to get closer to Eden Lake. Steve drives into the forest and they both reach Eden Lake. On the way, they come across a little boy named Adam. They try to talk to Adam, but he does not respond to anything they say. After Steve and Jenny reach the lake, they relax comfortably there. They start enjoying themselves, but then some little kids show up. Those kids harass another little boy, Adam, and chase him away. Jenny lies down with her eyes closed by the lake, but suddenly a dog comes and starts barking at her. Jenny gets very scared, but then the kids call their dog back. The dog belonged to those same kids. Steve ignores the situation and goes inside his article, but as soon as Steve leaves, the dog comes back. The boys were deliberately using their dog to annoy Jenny. Now Steve goes to talk to those boys. The leader of the boys was Brad. Brad starts making fun of Steve and Jenny. Steve realizes that there's no use trying to reason with these kids and starts walking away. Steve begins to relax, but then notices Brad staring at Jenny with a very dirty look. Jenny doesn't pay much attention to the words and she puts on her clothes. Finally, the boys start to leave, but as they do, they continue to mock Steve and Jenny. Both of them heard this. Ignoring it, the boys go back to their home. It was Steve and Jenny's plan to spend the night by the lake. Steve begins setting up the tent while Jenny looks for wood for a campfire. While gathering wood, Jenny hears sounds from the forest but decides to ignore them. Steve and Jenny genuinely enjoy their night, sitting in front of each other, having fun. However, Jenny keeps feeling that someone is inside the jungle. The next morning, they find all their food spoiled. They make up their minds to return to the village for breakfast. The moment Steve begins to drive, he notices the tire has been deflated. He spots a shattered bottle positioned under their vehicle. Steve deduces it was those youngsters, and they had been lurking in the woods that evening. He replaces the vehicle's wheel, and they make their way back to the village. As soon as they get there, Steve catches a glimpse of the lads and commences pursuit, yet they swiftly scatter. Jenny with Steve afterwards go to a store. They go to pick up some food from there. Just then, Steve asks the shop owner about those kids. He tells her that he saw some kids who were very rude, but the shop owner starts yelling at Steve instead. Now, Steve and Jenny leave the shop. Steve and Jenny head back towards the lake, but then they see the boys' bicycles lying outside a house on the way. He realizes the boys must live inside this house. He enters the house to investigate, but there's nobody inside. Steve sneaks inside the house, but then the owner arrives. Steve hides in an upstairs room where he discovers the house belongs to Brad and the owner is Brad's father. Steve escapes by jumping out of the window. Steve races to the car and Jenny starts it, driving them back to the lake. They settle down by the lake to prepare their breakfast, but Jenny notices her purse isn't there. Within her handbag were the automobile keys along with their cell phones. They hurried to inspect their vehicle, but their car was not parked there. Now both were scared and realized that it is not right to stop at this article. They start to walk away from there, but then someone comes and tries to hit them with their own car. They manage to escape somehow, and it was those boys inside their car. The boys take their car and run away from there. Steve starts to chase them. Chasing after them, the night had fallen quite heavily. After searching for a long time, Steve finally finds those kids. Steve calmly asks the kids for the keys to his car. Steve asks Brad for his car, but Brad says that he doesn't have any car. Steve says that our phones are also with you, but Brad responds that he doesn't have them either. Jenny understood that these kids would not agree easily. They had to bring the police there. Just then, Steve's phone starts ringing in Brad's pocket. Steve moves towards Brad to get his phone, but then Brad attacks him. A friend of Brad pulls out a knife. They were going to stab Steve, but accidentally, in defense, that knife hits their dog instead. He finds himself trapped. Tragically, his pet passes away. Steve, along with Jenny, urgently snatch their car keys, initiating their escape. They locate the vehicle. Each of them enters the automobile. But Brad, infuriated by his pet's demise, pursues them with vigor. Steve's vehicle ends up caught in a trench. The group arrives and commences pelting Steve's car with rocks, shattering the glass of the windshield. Despite the chaos, Steve manages to ignite the engine and proceeds to make a getaway. Due to the broken windshield, he couldn't see anything. Suddenly, the car crashes into a tree. A branch of the tree hits Steve. Jenny sees that she is okay, but Steve's condition was very bad. To get him out, they would need a third person's help. Steve sends Jenny to get help. As soon as Jenny gets out of the car, those boys also reach the spot. Jenny hides right there. Jenny remains hidden there all night. At dawn, she returns to her car but finds that Steve is missing. Jenny sees some bloodstains on the ground. Bloodstains are visible. Following them, she reaches a spot. She sees Steve bound with a razor wire which caused many wounds on his body. Brad is torturing Steve. Cooper, one of Brad's friends, takes pity on Steve. He tries to reason with Brad but ends up being attacked by him instead. Brad hands Cooper a knife and commands him to inflict multiple cuts on Steve's body as punishment. Reluctantly, Cooper slashes Steve with the knife. Okay, Brad then instructs all his friends to stab Cooper's body with knives. A female friend of Brad's, Paige, was also there, recording everything on her phone. The boys start stabbing Steve's body mercilessly, one by one, targeting various locations. One of them thrusts a knife into his mouth. All this Jenny watched from a distance. She connects her phone to Steve's Bluetooth and tries to dial the police, but while Steve's phone was in Brad's possession, he discovered Genuine was around too. They began their quest for Genuine. Meanwhile, Steve wriggles free and flees. Concurrently, the boys are pursuing Jenny. Jenny dashes to a shack and notices a walkie-talkie within. Trying to grab it, she accidentally knocks it over, causing it to shatter. Right when she does that, the boys arrive. To dodge Genuine, she remains silent and concealed nearby. But suddenly, Brad receives a message from a pal revealing Steve's escape. Therefore, they dash off to apprehend Steve. On another note, Steve had gotten back to his vehicle to retrieve a first aid kit, but the moment he unlocks the car, the alarm blares. The boys are clued in on Steve's whereabouts. Steve takes off running, and during the chase, he stumbles across Genuine. Jenny and Steve then escape from there. Upon their arrival, they notice a small hut. Jenny assists Steve into it and starts treating his injuries, which are quite severe and bleeding heavily. As Steve's blood loss is significant, his temperature drops. Jenny recognizes the urgency to get him medical attention. She discovers a ring in Steve's pocket, realizing his intention to propose. However, before they can flee, the boys show up, only to discover the hut deserted. Jenny had concealed Steve in the water under the structure. Once they've gone, Jenny emerges with Steve, hiding him among the bushes as he can't walk further. She leaves Steve concealed by the foliage to seek help. Spotting an electricity tower which leads to town, she follows it. But a piece of metal pierces her foot while running. In pain, Jenny experiences excruciating pain and screams. Hearing her cries, others start approaching. Now, Jenny attempts to discreetly remove the sharp object, but couldn't extricate it from her leg. Consequently, she is forced to push the metallic object completely through her foot to remove it. She begins to crawl forward agonizingly. On the way, she encounters the same child Adam that we saw at the beginning of the movie. She asks him for the way to the mountain. Adam begins to lead her but stops to use his mobile phone on the way. Jenny realizes that Adam is about to make a call. She tries to snatch the phone from him, but Adam had already messaged Brad. Soon all of them arrive at the location. They knock Jenny unconscious by hitting her. When Jenny wakes up, she finds herself tied in a place with steps built behind her. She sees Steve might have died already. Now, all those boys were about to burn them. Steve was already dead, but they were going to burn Jenny alive. Brad threatens Adam and orders him to burn her, and Adam reluctantly. and Adam sets fire inside Steve's body. As Steve was aflame, Jenny's rope also burned, freeing her. Jenny ignites fire around her, which allows her to escape, but Brad catches Adam. He threatens that if she doesn't return, he will burn Adam alive. Jenny hears this and stops, but observes that by then, Brad had already burned Adam alive. Jenny makes a hasty retreat. On her escape, she comes across a map of the woods. Shattering the glass, she procures the map. Overhearing the boys' chatter, she conceals herself in an adjacent garbage bin brimming with old refuse. Once they depart, Jenny steps out of the refuse. Observing shards of glass, she rips her garment and uses it to craft a makeshift blade. As she stands there, Cooper appears. Cooper was rather blunt, but Jenny, bewildered and rushed, pierces his neck with the makeshift blade. Jenny laments her deed, yet it's irreversible. But she couldn't do anything. She had to run away from there. At night, they all find Cooper's dead body. Now this made them even more angry, but one of Brad's friends was scared. He didn't want to die, so he starts to leave. Brad tries to stop him. He doesn't listen to Brad. Brad beats him to death in his anger. Seeing this, Paige was also very afraid, and she runs away from there. Meanwhile, Jenny is running inside the forest when she sees a car coming from the woods. She asks the man in the car for a lift, and he lets her in. But instead of heading out, the boy drives deeper into the forest. Jenny realizes from his words that he is the brother of those boys and has come to search for them in the woods. But he doesn't know who Jenny is. She takes advantage of this, and as soon as he leaves, she takes his car and drives away. However, on the way, Paige appears in front of Jenny. Without understanding anything, Jenny hits her with the car, resulting in Paige's death. Now, Jenny moves on from there. It grows. She reaches inside the town. There she sees a party happening. She enters the party where many people were gathered. Suddenly, Jenny faints. When Jenny comes to, she is surrounded by many people. They are helping her. But then Jenny realizes the house belongs not to anyone else, but to Brad. Then a call comes inside that house, and it was Brad's call. Brad informs his mom that a girl has killed all his friends. Brad's mom understands that the girl is no other than... In an attempt to escape, Jenny locks herself inside a bathroom. But then, Brad's father breaks the bathroom lock. Jenny sees that Brad had also arrived. She tells everything from the beginning, but no one believes her. Now, the boys drag her into the bathroom. Screams are heard coming from inside the bathroom. Brad deletes all video recordings from his phone. All the evidence was now erased. With this, the movie comes to an end.